Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to call to order another special commission meeting. Call the roll, please.
Mayor James.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Here.
Commissioner Brandemart.
Here.
Commissioner Grace.
Here.
Commissioner Salvino.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbro.
Here.
Thank you.
And it is 9 o'clock a.m. I'm sorry. Renee, thank you for traveling again. I really appreciate the time you've spent to go back and forth and back and forth. So, welcome back.
Thank you, Mayor. Renee Norlock with Norlock and Associates. I was going to joke and tell you I never left town, but that's not true. I did. But it's good to be back. Very good to have Commissioner Grace with us today.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
thrilled. We really didn't know at the beginning of the week how things might play out, and it's great. It's just great. So it's very exciting to see you here. Last time we were together, we had some interviews. 5 candidates interviewed for the city manager position. And I think Commissioner Grace has had the opportunity to view those interviews on videotape. And what we need to do now is try to regroup and debrief. I know it's been a week, but I know you took good notes, and it's not been that long. So our goal today is to determine who of the group that interviewed we want to move forward. And I'll tell you what that looks like to me. We are in a process here. We're not at the end game yet. We still have some vetting to do. We still have some processes in place that we need to do for candidates, backgrounds, references, and other types of things like that. So I'm not expecting, now you may be, but I'm not expecting a decision to be made about a particular candidate today. What I'm expecting is that we would come to a consensus of the candidates that have interviewed, who you want to move forward to that next round, and who we should do backgrounds on, and who we should do reference checks on. I want to remind you that even as part of reference checks, we will be calling people, but we will also tell you, you can call people too. If you would like to pick up the phone and call somebody's manager, or call somebody's subordinates, or find out more about them, call their council members, you are welcome to do that. But that's our next phase. And then the goal is that we come back on the 25th, around the 25th of July. You have a recess, if you will, next month, which is great. But to come back somewhere close to your July 25th meeting and do our July 24th meeting and conduct the next round, whatever that may look like. And that could be a variety of things. So our first goal this morning is to determine who we're going to move forward to the next phase. And then once we've done that, depending on how many and who and what that looks like, we can then have a discussion about what your wishes are for the next meeting around the 24th, what that might look like. And just to give you a brief overview of what that might look like is we could bring them back for another group interview with another live group interview with the commission. We can opt to do one-on-ones when I've talked about that before. Some people don't want to do that. If you do, we can add that in there. Q&A with department heads, sit down and just, not an interview, but to sit down with the senior management team and just have a question and answer session with them. Could do a meet and greet with the community, invite staff of the city, invite whoever's, everybody. Come and meet our 2 candidates or our 3 candidates, however many we're looking at that point. And also probably include a tour of the city if they're not with the city currently or not familiar with the city. I think it's always good for potential candidates to go out and about, find a tour guide, and take them out to see, exactly what's going on in the city relative to projects. And then also at that meeting, I would suspect that you and I would probably have some discussions about the element of an offer. If you have a comfort level at that point of selecting a person after we've gone through that, then we would talk about the elements of an offer. It realistically looks like it's probably going to be your end of August meeting before we would have a contract in place, if that early. So that just gives you a timeline of where we are. I think everybody's been anxious to find out what that timeline is. That said, I'm going to pause just a minute, see if anybody has any questions.
Commissioner Grace.
First of all, I want to thank you for all of your efforts in getting us to this point. I know it had to be a very difficult process with all of the candidates that we've had, and now we're narrowing it down to the 5 candidates that we have. You just said something that was very interesting to me, that the current commissioner have an opportunity to speak with city managers and department heads of the candidates that we've interviewed. What bothers me is that allegedly, some of the commissioners have already done that before we got to this point. And I want to really direct this question to our city attorney, because I don't think that this was in the norm, and of course, I can't accept bad behavior. I just can't. So through the city manager, is this something that we need to take a look at before we move forward?
And respectfully, all 5 of you are so invested in getting the right person. The fact that some have perhaps already contacted, before the interview and even before that's perfectly okay, Ms. Grace.
Okay.
Yeah, and for anything to do, anything is within the bounds of checking out these people. It's so critical to you. So the fact that they did it before we got to this stage is acceptable, and there's nothing in the charter that prevents it.
Second part of my question is was it correct for a city commission to lobby not for any of the candidates to come to the city and stay where they are?
Sure, I understand.
Can I speak for a second? She may or may not be speaking of what I may or may not have heard as well. We all know how small this city is, so we can sit around and act like we haven't heard the same things, but I'm sure some of us have. I do know that I received information that stated that one of our commissioners contacted the city manager or something of that nature, and was asking questions of, did they know that this person was filing for this position or applying for this position, and all these other questions. And then that gentleman pulled out. That gentleman was, I guess, the candidate from Miami Gardens. Is that what you're speaking about?
Yes.
I was just asking her, was that what she was speaking about?
Yes.
If I may, Mayor, the first thing I tell any candidate, and it's posted in all of our ads and our brochures and everywhere, that if you apply for a job in the state of Florida, your application is public, and it is anybody can call and get it. Newspapers can get it. As a matter of fact, believe it or not, some of the candidates that I recruited for Dania Beach, the minute I recommended them to you, they began getting phone calls from other cities for job offers.
Okay.
And from other recruiters, quite frankly. Fortunately, our candidates did not entertain that.
Okay.
So candidates are aware on the front end, if they ever put their name in the hat for a job in the state of Florida, there's a very good chance that their counsel will find out immediately. If they are city manager or even assistant, that their boss will find out immediately. And they are prepared for that.
No, I guess the question is whether or not, since you're just now saying that the next step is to do that, is that normal? Would you prefer that to happen before? Because, I mean, yeah, it's a possibility, but for someone to go back and tell your boss whatever, and now you have to deal with those consequences, that's why you didn't want to give us the list before a certain point in time.
That is a good point. I will tell you that candidates and I have conversations before I recommend them. Before that recommended finalist meeting that I did with you, I talked to them the night before, the day before, and I said, listen, this is what's about to happen. And they're like, okay, I need to go talk to my boss now. Because they don't know if they're being recommended or not.
Right.
So I would really say at that recommendation point, which is kind of probably when that happened, because I recommended the candidate that you're mentioning, it was already kind of out there in the open. My preferences would be not, but you're very networked as a group. We're in Broward County. Everybody, is a half degree removed from everybody else.
Right.
You probably can't walk down the street and not know somebody that knows our candidate. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
No.
Yeah.
But we got that part. We understand.
yeah. Okay.
Commissioner, are you counsel? Okay, Commissioner Grace.
And I have one last question. I really
Okay.
do. I received a telephone call from a city commissioner in a different city lobbying for one of the candidates. And of course, that really didn't sit well with me. If he is good enough for my city, why didn't you hire him for your city? And so you understand where I'm coming from. So that, to me, gave me a red flag right there. And after I looked at all 5 of the discs on the candidates, this would have been my top candidate. But I am definitely ruling him out because of the indoor windows. I don't do business that way. And I don't think any of us sitting up here should do business that way.
May I respond,
Please.
Mayor? Commissioner, I totally understand. I would encourage you not to rule somebody out on a phone call, and here's why. They may not have been behind that. People may have done it on their own. I have worked with, as a matter of fact, Broward County Commission comes to mind when I was doing recruitments for them, and Palm Beach County Commission. They were getting inundated with phone calls, and they were getting inundated with letters of reference just coming at them. And the commissioner said, Renee, would you please call the dogs off here? We don't want these. We don't, tell the candidates not to do this. And when I went to candidates, they said, I'm not asking people to do this. People are taking this on their own initiative. I said, well, if you know who those people are, tell them to stop, because it works against you sometimes. And so I wouldn't rule somebody out based on that. I would be mindful of that and certainly address that with them whenever if you should move them forward and have a conversation with them again. I got this recommendation and I didn't appreciate it. So I will tell you what's happened between the last time I was here and the time and our interview, when I made recommendations and when we did interviews. That's when information starts getting out. You start getting phone calls. People start coming out of the woodwork. There's all kinds of stuff that you hear. You hear good things and you hear bad things, and then you hear good things and you hear bad things. And that's just the time frame that we've been in. I'll tell you, the fact that you only got one is a good sign to me. I hate that you got that, and I certainly don't want you to rule a candidate out based on that alone, because it doesn't mean they did that. It doesn't mean they were behind that. People take their own initiatives and do things. But I do agree with you. I probably wouldn't appreciate it either. And had you been inundated with it, you would probably call me and said, Renee, do something about this. And I would have, because there's a time for that. Again, when we get further down the road and you want to talk to a commissioner, about a candidate because you have a mutual interest at that point, then it's for you to pick up the phone and call the commissioner, and have that discussion. And perhaps that'll be the case. You might end up, doing that with that particular commission. But there's a time for that, and I hate that you've had to deal with that. But that's what you do see in these processes.
Commissioner Salvino.
I'm sorry, thanks, Mayor. I'm confused on 2 things back on somebody got asked to step out, or what was that about? Or somebody called somebody and.
I wasn't privy to anything.
Promotion and big bucks.
Yeah, he did.
God
Who
bless
you
him.
talking?
But
For-
nevertheless, I don't think anybody should have called.
Well, that's a wrong thing.
I'm still in,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm lost here.
There was information that you spoke to the city attorney, not the city attorney, I'm sorry, the city manager over at Miami Gardens Drive, Miami Gardens, and,
Allegedly.
Did you say him?
Yes.
Allegedly.
Me?
Oh, I gotta put my light on now.
you
I
can
don't
put it
even
on,
know
I'm
who the-
just saying,
Okay,
there
go
was,
ahead, say what you wanna say, but
I'm not,
No, you can
you
bring
can
it
be
up. I
prepared,
have no
I'm
idea.
sure it was,
I
listen,
don't believe you'd call.
I did not call.
I know.
I'm sure it's these kind of conversations happen
That's why you have to
between
say
each of us.
allegedly.
People.
Well, you can say it me if you say it, but I can tell you right now, it wasn't me. And I'd like.
Okay, well, I'm just
more
saying
than
that the
happy to-
information I
That's why I was
received,
confused
I
on what's
didn't-
going on.
I didn't say that you did it. I said the information that I received was allegedly that you spoke to someone from there that started asking questions, and that's when Mr. Clay pulled out.
anybody here do
Now,
that?
I'm glad he got his promotion. I need a promotion too. But that's just, I need a promotion too. I wish I got a promotion like that. Commissioner Brandon Marty?
This is all garbage that's going around, okay, really is, because I was told
I
that
know he is.
allegedly you called one of our people in our departments to run, and he did put in an application.
I don't even know any of the candidates on there.
On the telephone, you asked him to run.
I don't know any of the
So, now, you
candidates.
see what I mean?
No, I understand
Oh,
that.
you do know the candidates.
I don't know. Oh, well, any
All
of them
right.
that's not internal. I don't know any external candidates, period.
Internal.
I know internal. Of course, we know the internal candidates, but I don't know
Right.
any
Well,
external
that's what
candidates.
it said, because that person had no interest in running at all until the mayor called me and she told me,
Somebody internal?
run. Yes.
Well, I wasn't the one, if you're talking about, let's talk about somebody that's one of the candidates. If you're talking about Mr. Kane, I wasn't the one that brought his name into the hat for running in the first place. So that wasn't me. If you can rewind all the commission meetings, I wasn't the one who said, I think that he would be a great city manager. Was that me?
You didn't do that.
No, that was vice mayor. You remember in the commission meeting?
No, it was stated that you called him because that's what he reported back.
No. Well,
I didn't think so. I thought it had to be a lie. Now, I have a retired police officer, ain't mentioning that one, calls me up and tells me, you know, and mentions another worker out at the waterworks. Actually did this to me on the phone yesterday and said, oh, you know, we heard that, the one we just discussed, you know, he's very, very good. Even shocked me, he named the other employee, said so, and that's who they want. Right? And I said, look, mind your own business. Because that's the best thing you could say, is mind your own business. You're retired from here as a police officer, and I love you, Chief. It's not you. You're not retired. You'll be going soon, though. And they get a lot of money, and I don't think that, I think once they're gone, they should stay gone unless they want to run for political office.
Love it.
what was one more comment? Commissioner Grace, and then we're going to try to move
I
forward
just
with
want to
this.
ask you, have you ever ran across a situation like this where
Sure, probably.
we get to the point that we do the narrowing of 3 candidates and we pick one, that we would, and this is just my perspective, I can't answer for anybody else up here, but because we're right in the middle of trying to put together our budget for the fiscal year, to keep the current city manager on until the end of his term is November and work alongside. Have you ever had a situation like that? 'Cause
yes,
that's what I'm going to be asking.
Commissioner, I've seen instances where there has been overlay between the outgoing city manager and the incoming city manager. I would say probably a month is the most I have seen.
So we're talking about making the decision somewhere around August,
Right.
September, October, and November will be the last meeting around the 22nd, am I correct?
I think if it gets
Somewhere around
beyond, I
there?
think if it gets beyond a month, it gets uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, because there is a changing of the guard that has to happen, and that's kind of a natural thing.
Can we, Renee, can we delay the contract for the new incoming city manager?
I believe by the time we make a decision and come to an agreement on terms, whoever that city manager is, depending, if it's an internal candidate, he could start tomorrow. If it's external candidate, they would need to give 30 to 45 days notice where they are.
Makes sense.
They can't just up and walk out
Right,
of their
okay.
role, wherever
Gotcha.
they are. So, you know, we may be along that timeline. But I do want to reiterate that there's just a natural progression where it's handed off from someone else to the new city manager, and we don't want to force that one way or the other. We don't want to make someone stay longer or have a new city manager that has the old city manager there for longer.
Stability is what I'm looking for right now, and that's what we have.
That's right.
And the most important thing to me is to make sure that we do a balanced budget for the residents of the city of
Right.
Dania Beach.
Right.
Somebody that is already on hands, that has start preparing and getting it ready for us, that we do not raise the taxes, the millage rates, and add all of the other things that we're trying to put together, and he's been doing that, so the new person coming in, he probably is gonna be very knowledgeable, but I think with the two of them working together, we'll get the best bang for our buck. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I
that-
agree.
I think I think by the time we sign a contract, and what she's saying is that we'll be done worked out our budget,
I don't
which
think
with the
so.
same.
I don't think so either.
No, I don't think so.
And so in September, if you're saying given a month, so end of August, she said we'll have some on the table, and if somebody else comes in here
We ratify
and
the
they
budget in
work,
September.
You're
well,
ratified.
I understand that, but if they work alongside the city manager, he continues to be a consultant to the new city manager to help with the process.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
but I don't.
Is there, Mayor Tom, isn't there a deadline that we have to have the budget done by?
You have your hearings, 2 hearings, public hearings in September.
That's
Right,
what I'm
in
saying.
September. She's right.
So I think
So
by the
in
time
July,
the
you have your-
process happens,
Huh?
I think the upcoming July hearing will be your first preliminary 501
Right.
budget discussion.
Uh-huh.
And then after that, you end up setting your actual rate, in September.
right, by that time we'll,
We've done so good as a commission for this city and built so many things. We need to have a budget that we can work with and know before we make any changes, really.
okay, let's,
Mayor, what I suggest we do at this point is focus on the candidates and try to get a
Okay, you're right.
consensus.
We're getting
Okay.
off the track.
Um,
I just have those little
You're
light
right,
bulbs that are
Deborah.
coming on, you know?
Sure. I'm going to run through what I'm proposing to do, and if you have a comfort level with it, then that's what we'll proceed to do. What I would like to do is, you should have your rankings, your forced rankings in the back of your book.
Uh-huh.
And I think, Commissioner Grace, you said you don't have your book, but if you can, if you need a
here's
sheet
a book, she
here.
can use this one.
Okay.
She can borrow the
What I
ranking
need
sheet.
is you to, based on the interviews, now this is a ranking based on interviews, understand that. It's not, you don't know everything about the candidates, just based on how they interviewed and what you learned about them. So if you could just write down, who you feel like was your top pick, and go 1 through 5 in order. 1 being the best, and 5 being not as strong.
For Miss Grace, is a blank,
I only wrote the names in.
okay.
No, it's got right, it's written. The names are written
Renee,
already, Bobby.
Here's
You
mine, I
wrote
don't
it.
look either.
Just the people who were interviewed.
No, it's the ranking that way. Yeah. Just give Bobby paper, that's all, a blank paper. Yeah, that's better.
I took your pen.
Okay, now what's,
I need the names.
did you want to explain about the ranking?
Let me just write on the facts and be there.
They're probably gonna have to initial whose is whose.
While we're doing that,
Should be fine.
the point of doing this is, I'm going to compile this information, this data, and I'm going to look and see if I see where we have a consensus of those who have perhaps fallen to the bottom. Everybody has them as their, fourth and fifth candidate, or third, fourth, and fifth candidate, and see then if we can get a consensus that we're not, as a group, we're not interested in moving those candidates forward. That way, we don't talk about them, we don't take time, we don't discuss them publicly. We just move on to who remains in the top group. And based on the data, I will share with you kind of what it looks like in general.
And how many, you just want the rankings, you don't want names? Like,
Yeah.
for candidates?
Their names.
Sorry, let me make sure I've got this right. So what I'd like is your list of 1 through 5 by name. I'm not going to share that. I'm just going to look at the total group to see what consensus we have.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Then we'll go back and talk about what our top picks look like. And I'm not going to name you. I'm not going to name candidates. I'm just going to say we have a candidate that has 4 number 1 votes or 3 number 1 votes. I'm just going to tell you what it looks like.
Okay, all right.
And then we'll go back and talk about names at that point. We can talk
Got you.
and then try to gain a consensus if we're in agreement of moving those particular candidates forward. Are you all okay with
yeah,
that?
Sure,
Yeah.
You okay with that, Vice Mayor?
yes.
Okay, Mary, you okay with that? Okay. It's going to take me just a minute to compilate this.
Pardon me? My wife's not fit to travel. She's sick,
Who's,
my wife.
again?
Tell them to join the crew.
You're gonna drive, right? You don't drive?
I had to cancel everything. She's sick.
She went back to the hospital?
Maybe this afternoon when I get done, when I get done.
But you don't know what's wrong with her.
Lord help us.
I'm upset over that comment. I don't even know what the hell, how that came up. I had nothing to do with anything like that. So wherever that source is a bad source.
Who's the Dr. Roberts, really?
I know, it's just, this is just off track for us. That's not, we shouldn't be doing that. Doctor told me, she said, the only thing that's wrong with me is I need to stretch.
You need what?
To stretch.
A stretch?
To stretch.
What's that?
Stretch, you know, don't,
Oh, you?
4 times a day and get physical therapy. That's why I hurt so bad.
And you're paying. Go to the gym.
Oh, well.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Are you good now? Well, I gotta get an okay from my doctor. If I try to fly from my doctor, well, because you could get pulmonary embolism. But he should tell you to pump your feet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but the altitude will give you a pulmonary embolism. And the only way we'll know it is if you got one pain in the back of your head between your knee and ankle. If you just hurt right here, get the emergency room right away. No, no, no. Don't say that because I am too. I don't want to fall apart. I haven't had breakfast.
I did.
Thanks. And what did you have?
2 eggs, hash browns, well done bacon.
Where?
Jack's Diner. 7 o'clock this morning.
In Hollywood? Do you know for, it's too dirty for me. 8
Oh,
years?
nice. Food's good, clean.
When I started at Southern 715 South Federal Highway, across the street from the club, that's when we all ate. That was in
That place is,
But was it better?
Oh,
It
this
was
place-
so shabby.
this place is in good shape now.
It is?
1967.
Even the seats were miserable, those red seats to sit on.
What's the,
It's been a long time.
when's the last time you've been there?
And when Callahouse's husband died, that's years.
They've remodeled the place and, you know, they try to keep it up.
I remember just.
Have you been there?
No.
Really, you
Not
see,
since I
because,
started with
I'm gonna try that
another 35.
for breakfast.
Breakfast. It's easy for me. I pull in my shop, I open
Tell you who
this.
has a nice breakfast, Roberts.
I like Robertson.
Yeah.
They have
Robertson's
awesome.
about,
Only problem with Roberts is they pay for you don't know James and just wanted to sit there.
you can't do it.
And I'll be right with you.
I can't do that in Hollywood either.
Everybody comes up to you, they know you, they know you, so I don't go to Roberts.
No, I have that problem at Jack's.
Where?
At Jack's. That's why I try to
That's your
hide.
bicycle shop is down
Well, the place everybody knows I'm here, plus I'm involved in a lot of stuff in Hollywood. And I mean, it's every day. The people,
Oh, well,
I
then,
sit there,
then that's what that is, because, but you can't,
I sit in the
can't,
back.
it's hard to eat around here, somebody's always gotta come up
You
and
good?
say something to you.
About this, my ex
Not
is
really.
old. My ex is old, but they do a nice breakfast.
Oh, well.
And towards Leicester Street.
Oh, that's my own. They do it. And you know, she lives here. She's a voter.
Who's she?
Lester's Diner, the one on the register, the half owners.
Oh, yeah, the little Oriental, Hungarian? The Hungarian lady, what it was, right?
Huh?
Hungarian or something like that, or?
No, Greek. Don't
Greek,
say
okay,
Greek.
I'm
because
sorry.
We share, don't mix them up.
Well,
We share
European?
Greeks.
European lady?
Yeah, but she lives right here in Dayton.
And I've been going there since.
You gotta tell her, say, really, that you live in Dayton all these years, I've never known it.
I didn't,
Yeah, she's got the brown hair.
but they always support me.
You darn right. That's her. She's so wonderful. She's wonderful. And there's another place I bet you don't know to live here. That famous cheesesteak sub place. Sonny's, or whatever it is out west. Cheesesteak to die for. There's none in the world like
Where's
it.
this at?
Yeah, they got good
Oh God, it's in a little shopping center as you go under the bridge right here. And she lives.
I just wanted to let you all know that Daniel Elementary is an A-rated school. I know that
I know.
Commissioner Grace knows that, but
I posted already.
Collins Elementary school grades has not come out yet.
Incomplete.
Yeah, they're still waiting on some of their test scores, and I think Olson rated as a C school.
They're C.
So we're gonna have to do some work with Olson.
South Broward is a C.
They're a C? I thought they were a B.
They're C.
They're a C? Wow.
Yeah,
They
so
went down
we
then.
need to get over there and mentor them, really. We can do it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just wanted
We
to
got a lot
sing
of
some praises
retired
to
school
Dr.
teachers.
Jackson and his staff for coming. They went from a B to an A.
I'm
I
a
think that's
volunteer.
amazing. And I think
Danielle.
we as a commission, we should do the same thing that we did for for Collins Elementary, for Daniel Elementary. Didn't we do
Yes.
like a pizza party or something like that and give them
Yes,
like a plaque?
definitely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we always, I go to both
That is
schools.
awesome.
Yeah. so.
Absolutely awesome. I was so happy.
They had some things the other night, when I went out to a meeting, I think a bunch of school teachers were there, and they were talking about the ratings that were coming out.
Yeah.
And Anne Marie was there, and
You know, I follow her, as a school teacher, I follow all that stuff.
they were really happy with the way that,
All of the high schools, Cs.
you know, I understand why, what's going on, and I think it's a lack of, I think it's really a lack of respect in the schools. They can't, and the one person came up there and mentioned something about, the discipline, and that too many certain
No.
groups of people go in there and they get second, third, fourth, fifth chances and infiltrate viruses of the kids. And what they've got to do is they take those kids out of that
You know
school,
I'll
either
go.
put them in a troubled
I
school
hope they're young, a
or
lot
get
young.
help or something, find out. Or if they continue to keep them in there, it's gonna make it worse for them.
Why don't they have
Little
two houses
tykes.
just like they have
Hey,
in
did
Newport?
Lewis come on
But
yet?
you know, the truth, they can fix the problem with that. The problem is who's gonna, they need budgeted money to talk to these kids and find out what's wrong with them. Why are you having this problem?
There's no parents in the homes and
But there's ways that they can make,
guidance,
but they can do
no leadership.
something, or they can, after school, come to this program, let me train you, do something, or, I mean, there's gotta be something to occupy their time other than cause
But
trouble.
he's gonna make it
They've
to,
got to do that. If they don't, not
the
these
dinner,
schools
right?
that are, especially public schools, will not change. The C rating will never change. You start them off at A's and then they go to B's and then they go to
Oh,
C's.
why?
It should be A. If you're A already, you need to stay in A. Be different.
I'm really proud of our elementary school teachers, that's a lot of time in it.
I wish it would stay in
And,
A.
and Ursa is a C, the middle school is a C.
Those are all starts.
But Lighthouse Church is gonna help me with that.
I apologize, but I'm well at it here. We're getting there.
yeah, of course.
Cause they need a lot of.
Johnny Boyle, Johnny Day's always waiting for this.
I'm gonna be presenting them next week. I need
Yeah.
school supplies.
She's nice.
For all three of those schools, also, they can fix this, so I can get a good point. It's been nice to have all of them get better than the teacher. It's funny how last year I was gonna have to pick it up and not bring it and stuff.
Yes, you get, you should charge a bunch of boards. If I make anything up, you should charge a bunch of boards.
Only ones that I'm really interested in.
No, really.
That was a
planning and zoning board. Planning and zoning board. Okay, my appointment was Lauren. My appointment was Lauren, so that was, the thing is over. And I should do it again. I'll go to a different place. That'll keep you, that's right, you're a perfect fit for it. Or if Lauren doesn't make it, and she likes to go find somebody that has been showing up, give you a opinion.
Do it while it's heated. I got all my girls home
The
from
people,
there.
the people that are on it,
See Florence.
that, if they're on it
Florence, you go
hard,
there and you watch them
then
blow
we can
this
also talk
thing
about
and it
expanding
gets
the board with
into
all the development,
different kinds of glass too.
at least 4 more years, because,
We got a lot of stuff coming in, we need to be on top of it.
you know, there's only one regret I've had on here.
I still don't know where
on
this place
passing,
is.
and that was
Oh,
the
Young
10-story
Circle.
building next to Jim Child.
Okay, go ahead.
We might have to approve that.
Well, they, I guess
Right,
it's
I wanna go
speculation.
over there
The only reason why I've met
I'm gonna
myself
go to
there,
see if
I
you
think,
wanna see
seeing everything
this.
else that's built here, it's all been 6 or 7 floors in it, and we should have kept
I even
Federal
have
Highway
rings that are
that way. And we should have done the 4 2-stories down on the boulevard, because it's like, it's, you know, it's like that beach image type of thing, you know? The Federal
Yeah, I
Highway should
could
stay
get into
that
something
lower.
like that.
I felt like it was a bad decision I made. Might have been
Yeah,
if it
if
was
you
a
go
little
to
new.
Italy, it's everywhere.
You know, I need to go there for too on that building, that yellow building next to the Tree Hotel.
Oh, you didn't know that?
Because James has been taking me every time.
Yeah, they tore that down about a month ago. I got phone calls
So
and
what'd you
too,
say?
that people were complaining that they had it roped off with carts, you know.
Oh,
that
you
they-
didn't have
that
to
wasn't
bake it,
professionally
too.
done. You know, they said, is that a sign of how the
Okay.
developer's gonna act? Because they had like grocery carts with the things all tied up across the sidewalk and this and that, and like, what? Like, everybody looks for something to argue with, you know.
When are they gonna start?
Apparently his plans are in, and I think he had, if I remember our discussion
Yeah, but
here,
do you do it
he
from
had some
scratch
things
or
that he
they
had
just
to,
puts on?
it was approved by us, approved by planning zone, there was, and the staff recommended approval.
Go ahead.
With exceptions,
Who
that he
did
had
the
a couple
flowers?
things to do on the plans.
Are they
I think that's what they,
made with
that they've
buttercream?
worked on now, so we'll see how it works. And you can always call,
Because I'm gonna put
Brent
this
or
in
Mark
the
or
paper
Eleanor.
today.
That's what it is. I ask him periodically, I call him.
His department is awesome.
Yeah, after I made a,
More than about the situation that happened earlier. I should feel pretty proud of myself if I was a guy, because if I was able to convince somebody to get a raise of that substantial, then I would have been good for me.
from scratch.
But I wasn't, I don't know.
I don't know why a person wants to have a tip, take a cut.
Well, I realized you make 192,000. He did explain some stuff, and I did a little checking. The reason why is when they come from California, their taxes are so harsh in there, they've got multiple taxes we don't have here, and the cost of living is higher, so realistically, the 45,000 he said didn't sit well with me, but I would say there's $20,000 difference, you see what I'm saying? And maybe he's thinking that if he, you know, what he said, I would be willing to take $140,000 or something like that. That's what the mayor
Yeah, I
said,
love
$50,000 decrease. I could say, if he
little
said,
bit.
I'll take 100.
That's okay, we're getting,
65,000, because it's only, I can absorb 20 because of that through flat. I mean, there's a couple things. Unless there's
That's okay.
overwhelming with one person.
we needed to have that discussion too.
With one person right now, I have a lot of background
Yeah.
to do stuff.
The two candidates.
I made carrot cakes, I want carrot cakes, all doll cakes with big bowl down.
The envelope, please. Okay. Let me just double check my number 10, 15, 18, 10, 18, 19, 2, 4, 14, 17, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 11, 4, 5, 8, 18. Okay. So we had some, I would say some consistency in the top 1 and 2. I would say that probably, looks like each of you probably ranked one of the 2 candidates as your top pick or your second pick, with an exception. So what I did do is and I'll be glad to give these back to you. What I did do is I assigned a numerical value to the rankings based on whether they were ranked, number 1 by so many people, they got a 1, If they were ranked 2 by so many people, they got a 2 for however many people that was. What that did is it kind of brings it back to help us get to a consensus. And what I have found is we have one candidate that is probably higher ranked by the group in general than the other candidates. And then the other candidates are all clustered together, okay? They're very close. So what I suggest we do is I can share with you, if you'd like, the results and kind of the one that's has a higher ranking and the ones that are clustered together. I would suggest
Yeah,
if you're
that's what we need to know that.
if you're comfortable moving
Of course.
A candidate forward, and then what we're going to need to do is to discuss the other 4 and find a common place there for those candidates, if you will. So the rankings that I've come up with, I'll just give you the numbers if you're good with that. Mr. Moore, and the lower the number, the better, okay? Because that means they were ranked higher. And they were, Mr. Moore has 11 is a score. Mr. Donnelly has 18. Mr. Brown has 18. Mr. Kane has 17. And Mr. Eater has 19. So you can see that based on the scores that we have so far, Mr. Moore, in my opinion, is one that has a clear delineation, if you will, about the process and moving forward. But what I would suggest we do is not stop there. The fact that we have so many that are so close together, I think we need to probably, I would suggest that we take them probably in order of their interview. Start with Mr. Donnelly, and if anybody wants to look at your notes on your page where you made notes of your strengths and weaknesses, and have a brief discussion about him first, just him. You know, each person, if you want to share your thoughts on weaknesses and strengths, you can do that. If not, we can go to our next candidate, which I think would have been Mr. Eater. And then after that would be Mr. Kane. And then we can talk about Mr. Moore if you want to, or if you want to just move forward, that's fine too. And then last of all, Mr. Brown. So what happened is where we stand right now, and again, you're not married to these rankings, okay? It's just an initial ranking, and the way that it adds up is that we have one candidate that's come out a little bit ahead of the pack, and then the pack is really tight together. So there's no delineation there relative to which candidate. I mean, we can go just by rankings if you want. I don't suggest that when you have it that close, you know what I mean, if it's 1 point off here or there, I suggest there's discussion as opposed to just. Now, if we had someone who ranked, 11 and someone who ranked 12, and then the next one ranked 19 and 20 and whatever, that would be pretty clear delineation. But we're a little bit, all over the place relative to where the candidates are. I know we're trying to accomplish a lot here. So are we good with proceeding as I just described? Is everybody comfortable with that?
I'm fine.
Oh, yeah, as far, you're talking about just discussing each candidate?
Yeah, we're about to just discuss each candidate, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm okay. I don't know how much we're gonna get out of it, but,
Me either.
Okay.
we've already, just,
We already
sorry,
done it.
and just in my, I think if somebody wants to ask questions, it's their prerogative to do that. I just think that we've already pretty much drilled them all about that. If we're gonna discuss amongst ourselves, what we're gonna do, it pretty much tells you how we feel about certain things. I think that if we're in a situation where we have 4 that are very congested and 1 that's there, my consensus just would be to think that if that number 1 person was there, I would think that, if there's 4 votes there, possibly move into that in the negotiations. If not, let's table them all, and then at that point, maybe we should interview on our own, like you had suggested earlier, to see if we get a stronger view from each of the candidates to maybe change our voting ranking. Maybe we need to do a little bit more due diligence on our own to see if we would change our attitude towards that person. That Miss Grace was not here to speak to them on a one-on-one. She saw them on a video, and I think that doesn't give her the same opportunities they gave us, and that she might want to talk to them you know, I don't mean to say things for you, but I know, I mean, if it was me, I would like to talk to the people a little bit more and see how they feel a little bit, you know, and maybe she wants to do that. You know, I mean, if it was a strong, seriously 4-1 on there, and you would say, hey, listen, this guy's got 4 votes here as number 1, and I don't think he's got that by counting. So I don't think that that's going to happen. So I'm just, you know, I'll do whatever the mayor and everybody wants to do, but I don't think I'm going to get anything out of it by discussing each candidate. I already kind of have an idea of what I like,
Okay.
and I'd like to follow up with those to see how I feel.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Okay, I have a suggestion. If whatever Commissioner Savino is saying, try to vote on one, doesn't work. I think as far as going through each one, just seeing if we have a consensus, if we want them to move to the next round or not. We might only have 2, we might have 3, but if we go through each one and say, you know what, do we have at least 3 people that would like this next person to move to the next round? We might have 2 at the end of that, and at the 2 at the end of that, if we don't have the support to have a 4-1 vote, then we.
I'm sorry, can we do 3 to move them up instead of 4 to 1?
That was gonna be.
No, I'm
my-
just saying to move them to the next phase, yes.
Okay.
But I mean, you need a 4 vote to make them city manager, but if we have a consensus to even move them to the next round of things, I think that's, you know,
Okay.
it may be better, because I don't know if we'll have all 5 that, or have at least 3 that is serious consideration.
Okay.
Commissioner Grace?
My suggestion is, Renee, that we move forward the top 3.
Thank you.
That will be Moore, Brown, and who else?
And it was
Sorry?
4 then, because it was Moore,
2 people had
Kane,
the same.
Yes.
Just-
Donnelly, and Brown. That's 4 people. I don't want to just eliminate one person.
Moore,
Moore, Kane,
Donnelly, and Brown.
and Brown
Donnelly and Brown
are the
were
same.
scored the same.
Okay.
That's why
So-
it would be 4
Okay,
instead
so
of 3.
my suggestion is that we take Moore
And Donald.
and Kane, and we vote on whether we want Donnelly and Brown.
Because they have the same, they have the same
Because they both
break-in.
got the same, they both have the same 18, am I correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Who's got 18?
Donnelly and Brown.
Moore came in first place, Kane came in
Right.
second place, Brown and Donnelly came in third place,
So
tied
we need
together.
to- that- And then we'll have our top 3.
Okay.
So are we all at a consensus that Eder does not have the support?
No,
I think that if you're going to go that route, I think that being involved in the city, that you should get Donnelly should get at least an extra point for being there, and give the advantage
We-
to someone that's come from California.
We're giving people extra points?
we already got an extra
I'm not
point by
laughing at you,
being.
Mayor.
I'm just asking, like, we already gave him an interview, he didn't even
You're laughing while
apply.
having a discussion about a
I can
possible-
chuckle, you want me to roll my
Never
eyes, is
mind.
the problem?
You usually do.
Well, I'd
Okay.
rather laugh than roll my eyes,
You do
so.
both.
Mayor, one comment I would like to make. If you did not if you gave me a list and you did not complete it, you just gave me 1 or 2, which you were not required to give me all 5 of them. When I calculated these scores, anyone you did not put on there got a 5 because they were not even on your list. So
Gotcha.
in calculating it, I want to make that clarification. Does
Okay.
everybody understand what I'm saying there? To make sure that the scores reflected your votes. If you did not put them on there, they were automatically ranked as 5th. If you had 3 you didn't put on there, 5 you didn't put on there, they all got a 5.
I
Okay?
understand.
Do you understand? Okay, I just want to make that clarification for the record. The other thing I want to say is that any discussion that you do have about candidates that you move forward, I'm taking notes. And if I hear you say, you know, I like them, I want to move them forward, here's my concerns, here's my area of concerns, I'm taking notes, because when we do references, we're going to drill down on those particular concerns
Right.
that you have. Let's say you're worried that someone is, not strong enough in budgets. Well, I promise you on my references for that particular candidate, I'm going to talk to the budget people and say, what do they know about budgets? What's been your experience? Do they know their stuff or not? So I just want you to be mindful that that's another step of our process going forward.
Okay.
Okay.
So are we at a consensus that Eder is not moving forward?
Correct. That's Illinois.
Vice Mayor? That is correct. Okay, so we have at least 3 that's saying he's not moving forward.
Okay.
Commissioner Brandon Marty?
Elder?
Mhm,
No, I
Eder.
tell you, don't live by water.
Okay. Commissioner Savino?
Yes.
Okay, so we have one off the list.
Okay, thank you.
Make some progress here. Okay, now the other two that were in third place, Donnelly and Brown. How do you all want to proceed with that?
I'd like to keep Donnelly on myself.
Me too. He's here.
Brown.
Vice Mayor? So you have 3 for Donnelly.
Okay, that's what we do.
So you have so Brown is off.
So now we have our 3
So now you have 3.
We got Donnelly, Brown.
and Kane.
No, you have more Donnelly and Kane.
Not Brown?
No.
Not
Oh,
Brown,
okay, more Donnelly.
unless you wanted Brown.
Come on,
You
this
said-
is for real.
You said you
Is
didn't.
what for
Are
real?
you sure you looked at it right? Come on, I'm gonna,
I
know?
double checked, I triple checked, and you know, it took me a long time
What-
to do
what-
that.
Why are you
Um,
Does it change?
I'll just tell you that there were 2 number 1 votes for Donnelly, there were 2 number 1 votes for Moore, and there was 1 number 1 for Brown. As far as second candidate, there was 1 for Mr. Eder, 2 for Kane, and 2 for Michael Moore. So again, looking at that, Mr. Moore had a 2 number 1 votes and 2 number 2 votes. So it makes sense to me that he would be moved forward automatically. Mr. Donnelly had 2 number 1 votes and a 3, 4, and 5. So I do believe I looked at it accurately. I believe the numbers are telling the story.
I believe you will, yes. Want to change?
I agree.
I didn't hear you.
More Donnelly and Kane.
Does everyone agree with that?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Brown was my other choice.
So what are your top 3, Commissioner Grace?
Huh?
What are your top 3?
Donnelly, Kane, and Brown.
Kane, you said Brown.
Brown.
She said Donnelly, Kane, and Brown.
Donnelly, King, and Donnelly, Brown, Moore.
That's what, all right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I disagree, but I don't care. You're never
I'm
gonna,
gonna change it.
all right, so we got him down.
So we got our
Drop
top
off.
3.
Brown?
So the top 3
got
was
Brown number
Moore,
1.
Donnelly, and Kane. That's,
Right.
okay.
That's based on those,
Numbers.
on those numbers, not on experience, I hope.
Can you repeat it all
Well-
so everybody understands it, please?
Well, I
Brown.
voted mine on how they interviewed. It had nothing to do with anything else other than how they
But
interviewed.
then I hope you're gonna hire somebody that way, just based on how they interviewed it.
I
and
know,
what they
that's,
do.
well, that's why I wanted to make, on my paper, it says, on all bold, interview only, my rankings.
Oh, come and do the same thing, because that doesn't make that person qualified to be a city manager. Any person, based only on interview.
And I agree with that 1,000%, and that's why I really wanted to put that next to mine.
She's gonna tell us where we are.
I put it down to.
She's gonna tell us what?
I am.
She's
Oh, you-
doing it, yeah.
I'm recalculating based on your change,
Yes,
correct? Is that
gotcha.
what I'm doing? Okay.
Want to get this done.
You ain't picking anybody, so what's the difference?
You gonna wait for me to November?
Huh? I'm
No.
talking about now, today. No, I'm talking about today. Yeah.
Okay, based on the change. Mr. Moore has a score of 8 now instead of 11. Mr. Kane has a score of 20 now instead of 17. So we're looking at Mr. Moore, 8, Mr. Donnelly, 18, and Mr. Kane, 20, removing Mr. Brown, who's also at 18.
Oh, so it's the
And
same thing. The
Mr.
top three is
Eder.
the same thing.
So
Okay.
it will be Moore, Donnelly, and Brown, am I correct?
More Donnelly and Kane.
No, it can't, he's got,
Mr. Brown.
Kane got 20.
Kane got, so the rankings right now, Mr. Moore, 11, Mr. Brown, 18, Mr. Donnelly, 18, and Mr. Kane, 20.
Yeah.
Mr. Moore's score dropped by 3, and Mr. Kane's score increased by 3
So the top three
because
are
of the change.
three that I just said.
So based on those scores, Mr. Moore, Mr. Donnelly, and Mr. Brown are our lowest scores.
Okay, I mean, that's not my top three, but that's your top three.
There's my top three either, so we would never come to a consensus there, so.
If we speak about candidates, I don't feel like Mr. Brown interviewed well at all. He didn't know much about our CRA, and he wasn't very excited to work with our CRA, and that's very important for us. He wasn't very prepared. So that's why, that's solely, I was excited about him. I know we had discussion that he hops around a lot, and but my concerns came with his unpreparedness. I mean, he flew all the way from California, and he was not prepared for this interview. That's my opinion on him. Commissioner Brandon Marty?
Yeah, my concern is similar, except for one thing. There was a tiny little snicker, not when we said we have a CRA and we are the board, but when we said it's
The
TIFLess.
TIFLess, and then when I
Remember
asked-
that? As soon as he went, like,
Yeah, and then
to
when
me,
we,
his agenda would be to get rid of the CRA board.
Yep.
But
can't
he
do
did
that.
not like it at all. And
No, he
that's
didn't.
why I didn't go with him at all.
so that's my opinion on
I
that.
can change my mind again.
This isn't written in stone.
No, it's not. I was just,
Right.
you know, I mean, that's just my conversation. And then when I asked, and then when the question was asked, you know, what are you going to do in your top first 9 days? He was like, oh, this question. Like that, yeah. He just really felt like, you know, he can't really do much in 90 days. And our next 90 days is really important. It's critical. And so, like I told Mr. Eder, you know, you're going to have to hit the ground running. Who's number 4? Oh, sorry. Vice Mayor?
I agree that Mr. Brown didn't particularly interview well for reasons. I think it was at the end of a very long day, and I don't. The interview was not excitable. It didn't share anything that was astounding or even interesting to make you want to lean closer and listen to what he had to say. So.
Thank you.
You guys were here, and I take that in consideration. That's why I changed my vote. Okay? I appreciate it.
No, you can keep yours. I'm just speaking on.
I'm tired.
He had excellent credentials, but it didn't translate through to the interview process.
Thank you.
That's a very good point, Vice Mayor. And
Thank
they have one chance to wow you,
Yes.
you know, and they should take advantage of
agree.
that.
You only get one chance to make a first impression.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Gotcha.
That's a very good point.
He shifted a lot. She's right.
That's why I still got the same guy.
Hmm?
First impressions are good.
I guess we can ask everyone else. Commissioner Savino, who are your top 3?
My top three are Mr. Moore, Mr. Donnelly, and Mr. Kane.
Yes, that goes mine.
You want to know who my top three are? Same.
Same. Commissioner Brandon Marty, who are your top 3? because we could save Renee some time right now from doing that.
No, you're not, because I'll tell you why. There's a candidate of those three there that has an outstanding case somewhere. He has a case. He has 2 cases that he's involved in.
Who?
Which means he'd have to go back to, maybe do depots, I don't know.
Oh, you're talking about Mr. Moore, okay.
It's 4 years, 1 case. I don't know what the second case is. And, I think, very strong-armed.
Well, I'm
You
just saying
can't
the
tell
top
me it
three.
was a strong arm because everybody saw it.
Yeah.
And, no problem
I
firing.
agree with you.
No problem firing people, have done it. Are
Mine
you,
wasn't
are you
necessarily by
involved
order.
in any EOC, was it?
EEOC, yeah.
Yes, I only knew of 1. He says, yes, 2 of them.
2 of them.
I said, excuse me? He said, 2 of them. I said, so that means you have to go back maybe for that case. So, and not only that, I want to do a little bit more investigating on another issue he has.
Yeah,
And I must
I
do
agree.
that.
I agree what you're saying. What we're saying is not that we're going to elect him as city manager because, in all honesty, if it wasn't for his interview, he would have been number 5 on my list. The same person that you're talking about. He interviewed very well, but I've done my due diligence behind those doors after he interviewed, and I've heard very much of the same things that you have heard. I've heard that he's laid off a lot of people. I've heard people that directly have worked under him. The business community loves him. The community that works directly with him thinks that he's very aggressive, very strong-armed. He's laid a lot of people off. That's just his history of what he's done. He told us that he did. He shifted those people from one department to the next, but he lost a lot of
Eventually, he let
employees
them go.
when he did that. And so,
And he cross-trained.
Yeah.
and he
Here-
cross-trained.
here,
So,
see, I gotta stop
I mean, I
looking
just
at
want to
this
know
as a
what
union
your,
person.
I just want to know what's your top,
Not Bobby.
I just want to know what's your top 3.
My top 3?
No, I think we got
Oh,
yours.
My top 3 is Colin Donnelly, and I gotta talk to this guy more one-on-one and tell him how I talk, and like you know what I mean? And I'm gonna ask him outright if something that's being said about him is true, because if it is,
Do you think they're going to tell you the
none
truth?
of you will vote for him.
But do you think they would tell you the truth? Because I'm telling you, if I go in an interview and they ask me, like, how's your demeanor? I'm like, huh?
I
I'm
have
like a,
faith in her too.
yeah.
So she knows.
So what are your top 3?
what
Donnelly?
No, I'm only, to be honest with you, I'm sticking with one candidate.
Okay.
Donnelly.
Yes, I am.
Okay. So, so the top 3 are Moore, Donnelly, and Kane as a consensus that will move to the next round. Commissioner Savino?
Actually, Marion, I'll rescind that because I think I just got a little confused because
What we were doing?
First of all, I'm not, my top 3 doesn't necessarily mean they're not in order.
Right.
She
Right,
said-
mine either.
And then when she said I'll follow up with it, and I agree with that, but then the next comments come up that, some other commissioners are finding that they're not happy with that. I mean, if they're completely off of it and we could have that consensus, we could eliminate one more person and bring it down to 2. You see what I'm saying? If you
Is
guys are
there,
adamant about
is
it.
there
Yeah.
a consensus to, if we have 3 to not support Moore, then Moore will be off our list as well. So,
I'm not ready at this point.
Me
I'd like
either.
to do, that's why I said a little more.
oh, so you want Moore to make it to the next round? That's all I'm asking.
I'm not gonna say what it is here, because then all of yous will vote no. I wanna talk to this man and
Okay,
find out if
I'm
it's
all
So
in.
do you
true.
want to make him to make it to the next round?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, so we're
And I
good.
can tell him off if it's true.
So I will can I make a suggestion or a motion that we continue the vetting process with Moore, Donnelly, and Kane?
No, I mean, we already got the consensus. We got the consensus with all 3 of us already.
Okay.
So I don't know what's next.
I'm good with that.
Everyone was good with that. I went down the line.
Okay.
Everyone was good with that.
Okay,
4 of us were good with that.
make sure no one's changing their mind here.
And
Okay.
then Commissioner Brandon Marty says she wants to continue to do some more vetting, so
Yes.
Moore, Donnelly, and King makes it to the next round.
Okay.
If
I
they're,
don't agree with that if you're taking a vote on that, because I don't
Right.
want one in there, but I don't care.
well,
I just
okay,
vote
no,
no all the time, to the end of the world.
so that's fine. So 4 of
Like
us,
I did on Paul Fletcher,
okay.
and it was
Okay.
a stalemate.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I think we accomplished at least narrowing the pool down and moving forward. I'll notify candidates right away, make sure they're available around that time of your next meeting. Can we talk about that real brief, about what you would like that next meeting to look like? I'm assuming that we should at least set up times for one-on-ones, should any of you want to do that. Is that a fair
Yeah.
statement?
Actually, that's what I was,
I don't wanna
as
do
part of-
one-on-ones.
I'm
You
sorry,
all
the
can.
process I'm talking about now would actually be in conjunction with your next meeting. Meaning, when we come back on July 24th, sometime right around that date, when everybody's congregated together, either that date or afternoon before or day after, right around that date, we're going to do another process. We're going to bring these 3 candidates in. By then, I will have checked references. I will have given you information, reach out to people. I'm going to go ahead and do the background checks. I don't think that the city will ask me to do
You can do them right here.
background checks on internal candidates, but certainly on an external candidate, we need to know what's out there, you know.
You don't do background checks on internal candidates?
It's the direction of the city whether we do that or not. You really should have done that already.
Yeah. for them to be
And
hired.
I don't know that we would even do references on them because you are their references. They work here.
What level of a background check do you do? Because I know some people do level 1, level 2.
Yeah,
I
we don't
need
do
to know.
fingerprinting or anything like that. Our background checks will include their driving records. We're looking for violations, DUIs, what have you. Education verification, make sure they really do have their degrees. We do civil records check, criminal records check at the federal level and at the local level. We do. There is a credit check in there. There's you can't hire or fire somebody based on their credit. But
Is it only in the state of Florida is my question because
No.
okay.
no,
I
it's
wanted-
nationwide.
Okay.
It's looking for felonies and misdemeanors and all kinds of things. We also do a social security trace to make sure they have a legit social security and they're not using one from someone who's deceased or whatever. We do a sexual predator database as part of it. I will send you a list of all the things that we check, but it's pretty comprehensive. And we'll go ahead and do that, certainly on the external candidate, and I'll check with your staff here, HR and city management, to make sure, to be on the same page that they have done that and that we don't need to do that on internal candidates. But I'll work with them on that.
Commissioner Savino?
yeah, thank you. I just want to clarify, so I understand about the individual interviews and so on. If we're, I'm trying to figure this out. If there's a chance, I mean, there's not a chance that we could meet again before the next meeting to get through this? No? Okay, just either, because I'm starting to look at the reason why, it's just a thought, and what I hear is that July 25th, we're starting to do the process again, then it's August, and almost,
sir.
what Commissioner Grace just said a second ago is by the time we get done, with the budgeting and everything else going on in here and so on, I mean, we're gonna be going into the next budget year without, I'd rather wait almost to the next budget year to finalize, at least approve the budget. I mean, I'm not saying that we have to go to election time, but I'd like to go to at least budget, we get the
Sure.
budget through, unless we have a consensus up here that we can keep the city manager on till budget is voted on, that's all.
Yeah, that's what we were
Yes,
saying. We were saying that we could at least keep the city manager, even if we chose a new one, to
But it may go
consult.
to 60 days if that's the case.
It just depends on when we finish.
Yeah, okay, that's my main concern at this point, because it's been delayed so long that there's not enough time for the new city
Commission-
manager.
Sorry,
Listen.
wait, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, Commissioner Grace?
Renee, thank you for being patient with us. Of
course.
You've got 5 personalities here. It's very difficult, but I think what we're trying to do is make sure that we get a person that will be the person that can take over from where we are now to leading us to the future. I know it was very difficult with all the candidates that you had, and then we narrowed it down from that large number to the next large number to the 6 to the 5, but we got to remember that basically all of the top city managers are working somewhere else. And so when we get somebody in here, we got to make sure that they got the credentials, they got the know-how to lead us, because we've got a lot on our plate right now. And we have an election coming up in November. We're going to have new commissioners, somebody that can direct them, let them know what the development is and how we move forward with that in the CRA and the vision that we have for the city center and everything else that's going on. So it's a tough thing. We'll get there.
Yep.
We'll get there as a unit. We'll get there.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commission-
I'm very happy with where we are. I knew going into this that we were coming up against months of recess, and I certainly know that you deserve your months of recess. I apologize, that's probably my phone going off. I tell everyone to turn their phones off, and there's mine going off right now. That said, thank you very much. It's the most important decision you'll make as a group, in my opinion. It affects everything going forward, in my opinion. And you need to feel really good, not only about the process, but about the outcome of it. And we are in a process. We have some more steps. I wish we didn't. I wish we were further along. I wish we were deciding today and moving on, and things would look different. But we are where we are. We're continuing to make progress. And you need to be as informed as possible when it comes time to make that final decision. So that's the reason I'm kind of talking about the next steps with the one-on-ones. The reason I say we can't do them before then, I can do them before then, but I've been told from the get-go.
We're not gonna be here.
You're not gonna be here, and not even think about it. Don't even bring it up, Renee, is what I was told. So I won't bring it up. But when we do regroup again, and we bring these three folks back into the fold here, I would suggest that you have another interview with them, another group interview right here. You would be present. Those questions will not be the same questions we asked
Right.
last time. Those questions will be about that candidate, okay?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay, specific to the candidate next time. So you can drill down on any concerns you have, anything that's come up, whatever you need to know, specific to the candidate.
I'm sorry, one thing about the questions, and some of the things that,
Commissioner Brandon Marty, you had your line?
I'm sorry.
The four, this to the, thank you, by the way, to the four of you, I don't feel respected, and that's bad.
By who, us?
Yes, we left here with a plan the last time, and then all of a sudden, a meeting is thrown at me by you that agree with it when it happens. So I want you to know this right here and now, and put it in the record, Tom, that if you decide when you go home, you don't like the way this went because you're in a rush and you want to do it on the vacation time that we agreed to, you leave me the hell out.
Wait, did someone
When did we
want to
go?
have a meeting during your vacation? I'm confused.
Yes, we were on vacation as of the last meeting.
Oh, but when we,
That's when we started our vacation.
when we met on Monday, we said if it was a possibility, if Commissioner Grace felt okay by Friday, we would have, we said that at the last meeting. We didn't,
I don't think it was even fair that you, Bobby, that you even, honey, went against something you and I have stuck up for more than 5 years.
She's right.
I know
No.
I'm right, Bobby.
Commissioner Brandon Marty.
Now I had to change my plans in order to come even here today. You either have respect for each other, or this process that she's doing, it ain't gonna work.
Well, let me be the first to apologize. I thought that during the last meeting, I asked when were we going on vacation, and someone told me Friday would be the last day that we could meet. Now, if we would have said this is the last day before July 24th, I would have called Renee and said we can't meet until July 24th. This meeting was not a deal breaker for me, and so if you felt like I cut into your vacation time and this was thrown, I thought we discussed this the last time we were here. That's the only reason why we put that together. Now, if
Well, who would think a person would be in a hospital and come from the hospital to here?
I said we were going to do whatever
I thought
was
we were
okay.
safe.
Well, I thought we were going to do whatever was okay with Miss Grace. Now, I begged her not to come to the commission meeting, and she still came.
Well, because she's loyal.
I understand that, but I don't want you to feel like we went behind your back and did something that you were unaware of, because I felt like we discussed it.
And then it went into the second thing. First, we find out, there we are again, that she can't make it, this young lady here. All right? So everything was called out, oh, she's going to be teleconference. I don't know what the heck you agreed to, and I don't know what you agreed to, but you agree with everything. But the point is this, I said I will not because I was uncomfortable, because now you see how we're looking at numbers, and then we would have had to go through our book to see what notes we put down?
yes.
That was ridiculous. I don't even know why you would have agreed to do something like that. I just don't. So now it goes back to you. You called her.
I made a phone call initially when I thought that she was going to be able to come. When she said she was not going to be able to be here, Tom contacted everyone. He contacted me. He said, Mayor, you have 2 commissioners that will not meet without her in person. I said, I called Renee and I relayed that message. And I didn't say we were going to meet without, I said, Renee, we cannot meet because 2 commissioners said they will not meet without you being there.
And
So-
that I find very, very intimidating.
That I told
and
her?
I feel that's why you came.
Well, that's.
I really do,
But
because
that
I
was
know
the
you
truth.
had a heavy workload and a big schedule for months to come. And I can't understand you not knowing that if you couldn't be here, that you had to do, you know what I'm getting at,
Yes.
Renee? A telephone conference, and all of a sudden, in 2 hours' time, you could change it all?
Sure.
I felt like you were
Well, I didn't-
intimidated, and that's how
Do
I
you,
feel.
did you feel like I intimidated you? Because
Mayor-
I was
Mayor-
Don't
perfectly
answer that.
okay.
No, I
If you
won't.
answer that, there'll be a problem.
No,
Mayor-
it won't. I can't, no, hold on one
Yeah,
second,
okay.
Because I did not call her to intimidate her. I don't want you all to feel like this meeting, we didn't accomplish much. I just want to be very clear. We did not choose a city manager. I called and I let her know, like I told you all, I would call and let her know. When she said she wanted to do a telephone conference, I told her from the beginning, that is going to be a problem. When I received that information, all I did was tell her that it was off for me. It was just like it was off for you. Tom called me back and said, Renee said she can be here. I said, okay. He called you all, he didn't call you all back. I think he spoke to 1 commissioner, and Commissioner Savino said he already had his plans. Fine, he already had his plans. So Renee, we're not gonna meet with 4 commissioners. He already had his plans. Commissioner Savino then called back and changed his mind and said he could be there. Tom called me back. Tell me when I'm lying. This is how the information came to me. Tom called me back and said Commissioner Salvino said he would be here for an hour. I called Renee back and said Commissioner Salvino said he could be here for an hour and yada, yada, yada. That's how it went. There is no intimidation factor at all. It didn't make a difference to me whether or not we had this meeting today or on the 24th. I was not pressed for it. I want to be very clear about that. Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, first of all, I want to apologize to all of you. Whenever Commissioner Salvino mentioned on Monday that perhaps there could be a regrouping here and meeting on Friday, I encouraged it because whatever we can do, I knew we were coming into vacation. So what I failed to do in the moment was to tell him that my participation in my head was by phone or by video to walk you through this process because it's very important. Once I heard that, and I did apologize to you. I called and apologized to him personally because that's where I missed it. And I apologize to all of you now, and especially you, Commissioner, if I've disrespected you in any way. But I want you to know that once I understood that it wasn't consensus for everybody, that you were okay with me doing that, I went into overdrive and did everything I could to be here, not because I was intimidated, but because you are my client. And I recall a discussion with the vice mayor. As a matter of fact, it kept playing through my head this week. I couldn't get rid of it. When I first talked with him, and he talked about being in the private sector, how, if you're in business and your electricity goes out because of a hurricane, your clients on the west coast of California, they don't really care that you had a hurricane. They need something. Mm-hmm. And if they don't get it, they're going to go somewhere else. And so it was that mindset for me that just said, you know what, it doesn't matter the circumstances. I need to do whatever I can do. Now, I had other client meetings like this today, and I went to them and I said, is there any way I can do that by video or by phone with them? And they said, absolutely. So once I had that, then it became a challenge for me to get here. I told Commissioner Salvina, he said, you better be there at 9 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to be mad. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, the only thing that stands between me and being there at 9 a.m. is Delta Airlines. And Commissioner Delta messed me up last night. Wheels down in Fort Lauderdale Airport at 2:45 a.m. And it was this close to not happening. So I am thrilled to be here. I am thrilled to be here. I'm thrilled that we've made some progression here. I understand all the challenges here, but I want to make sure that you give me a good idea of what that next phase is going to look like. Do you want to do, and I guess we could go one by one here, do you want to do another group interview in this room around the 24th with the 3 candidates that we have moved forward.
Can I?
A 1-hour
Oh, we
interview.
have like 3
Mayor.
comments
Yeah.
before you move on.
Sure.
Commissioner Salvino?
First, I want to clarify this whole thing so everybody understands where I'm coming from, because I like to be transparent. If I did something wrong, I apologize, but I'm going to explain to you how this went down. And you started off with, all had agreed on Friday, on the meeting that we would meet on Friday. I was fine with that, and we had everything in order because I had planned my vacation, and I rearranged for
Yes, sir.
us to be here at 9 o'clock. You said you failed to tell us it was going to be by teleprompter, which I felt was not a good way to handle this.
Yes, sir.
I was told that, so at that time, I said, I don't want to meet. I got a call from the city attorney, and I got a call from Tom. I said, I prefer not to meet. They said, okay. Tom texted me back or called me back and says, it is off. I said, okay, I made my plans, I left. Then I get a call back, well, Renee's come back in town. I said, well, if Renee's come back in town as original, I'm not gonna let my commission and staff down by not being there. I had originally planned it, I'll just tell my wife that we're gonna leave again a little later, and that's what happened. But I'm here because I wanna be part of this
Yes, sir.
team. But originally, when it was off, so I did not mean to disrespect you at all, Commissioner Brandon Marty, believe me when I tell you. If I did, I apologize, but I'm just trying to do the right thing by being here with this team, and I do have plans, but I had plans, okay? So, I don't know anything other than that.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
all
know
I'm telling you.
where the Commissioner Grace?
Yeah, respectfully, because I don't want to disrespect anybody up here. I mean, I've done that in the past, and the past is in the past. This is a very good commission. I believe that we have a very good working relationship. So I'm on board, and I really appreciate the opportunity that you guys even waited for me, you know, because you really didn't have to, because I was just one person, and the majority or the quorum was here. You could have made the decision without me, but you chose not to, so I appreciate that. And I'm on board with my fellow commissioner when there is time for us to have a norm outside of the city commission business, because we all have FAMILELY. You know.
FAMILY.
Family.
You know what I'm trying to say? I can't even think, because to me, regardless to what happens, my family's first, and this is secondary. But I love them both. But I can tell you, if we had the scale, my family's going to come out first. And so once we decide to do breaks and stuff, we make plans
Yes.
to move forward, whether we're going to have a family retreat, whether it's going to be a family reunion, whether I'm going to Texas to see my great-grands. So I'm like my fellow Commissioner Brandon Marty. I'm not coming. You can call me, and those people that try to schedule meetings and stuff with me, I tell Christine, let them know that, you know, this is our time. You can make the appointments for us when we come back, and I never say that I'm not going to meet up with a person when I'm here, because I do that, because that's part of my job. But when I have that quality time that I can get away from it, I certainly do. And I just want to thank you guys, because I know you didn't have to. You really, truly didn't. But I really appreciate it. I do.
Vice Mayor?
And the other thing is like my fellow commissioner, it doesn't mean that I've got 3 candidates, because right now I'm only working on the avenue that I only got 2 candidates.
Vice Mayor?
Well, I think I said at some meetings ago that I was always able to meet, you know, or have a workshop, and wasn't really totally agreeing that we were going to take the whole month of July off, but I said okay, and I said I'd have a workshop even if I'm the only one here. Didn't I say that?
You
Remember
wouldn't have
that?
been able to have it with one person.
With the city attorney and Tom, whoever, you know, we're just
That
here
wouldn't happen.
talking. But as far as changing the plans, I mean, you know, I don't mean any disrespect to Chicky at all, but, you know, I was picking up my car here last night at 9:30, and, you know, I knew I had a meeting again at 9 o'clock, so I'm happy to, you know, come and meet anytime they need us. And, you know, as far as changing plans, I mean, I've flown all the way to Houston before for a meeting, only to find out that the client we were meeting wasn't coming. So, you know what happens. It happens. So flexibility is the
Lastly,
key.
I just want to I just want to caution anyone, all of us. We work you know what? I've seen past commissions that sit here, that have sat here, And I know that we all aren't the best of friends, but we have done a great job as a whole together. I would caution you all, especially during this process from when we meet again, to turn your ears away from negativity that comes from people and residents who are just miserable. I was very disturbed to learn that some residents took it upon themselves to send a commissioner some negativity that had happened in the past from another commissioner. And all that, that they get along now. And all that does is try to create division. At the end of the day, we're looking for a 4-1 vote. And we really had residents that sent hurtful things to another commissioner to try to create that division because they're now on a different term. I just think that is, that's unethical. I just think that is flat out like heartless. And I hope that people change what's in their hearts before their time on earth is gone, because don't allow that to happen. That's what's going to happen. They're going to try to put me against you, me against you, me against you, me against you. That's human nature. You're going to get phone calls from one side and the other side. You're going to get phone calls to, oh, remember what they did to you. That's what you're going to get, and that's what people have gotten. And I think it's sick behavior, and you need help. To those of you, I know this is public, for those of you who did that, you all need help. And that's what my comment is for that. Wow. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any elements of the process going forward that anybody feels strongly we should not include? The things I've mentioned are having another interview with the commission in here, probably an hour. One-on-ones, if you opt to do that, probably 30 minutes with the candidate. We can schedule you to sit down with them here at City Hall. A question and answer session with the department heads as a group, meaning the senior team of directors here at the city sitting in a room with a question and answer session with the candidates, probably for about 1 hour.
With all of us? With that senior team, or just with each commissioner in that senior team?
No, the senior team meeting would be just the candidate with the department directors. In
Oh,
a
so we
question
wouldn't be
answer.
there?
No, sir. No, ma'am,
Okay.
you would not be required to be
Okay.
there. A meet and greet with community members of some kind of informal kind of meet and greet where you have the 3 folks in there and they're, and then a tour of this, and then a tour of the city for any candidates that wish to participate. Are there any of those elements that you strongly disagree with having?
I'm not with the one-on-one. Commissioner Brandon Martin, your light is on.
Well, I have a problem with that because what I want to ask this person would not be something that I would want you to hear. I really mean that. I don't want to, because I don't want to destroy somebody if I'm wrong.
Yes.
Which I don't think I am, but I will say that. I need to speak with that candidate.
What we'll do is we'll set up one-on-one time slots for anybody that wants to take
Yeah,
advantage
I
of
only
that.
want to meet with the one,
Okay,
because I only have the problem
that's
with the
fine.
one.
That's fine. I do encourage all of you, and I have from the start, and I know I've gotten differing opinions on that, but I'm gonna give it one last shot here. I do encourage you to take advantage of those 30-minute meetings to sit down with all 3 of the candidates we're moving forward, even though you may know 2 of them well, so you can have some just really direct conversation with them without any interference, just real, one-on-one of, you're looking at this role, this is what it is, and then you could just have conversation instead of, in this environment. It's different. I have people who walk out of there and say, I think differently about a candidate since I've had a one-on-one with them. Not, usually good, because they've learned something. Okay, so I again, we'll set up the slots. You take advantage of it or you don't. If you want to do it with all of them, fine. If you don't, fine. But we'll set up the slots for that.
Commissioner Salvino?
I think that the candidates with the department heads and with the public is a great idea.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's something that gives everybody an opportunity, just like you said, to see the other side of that person. I think it would be up to our team up here if we whether they want to come or whether they don't on another interview. I mean, it could be important to some of us. I'm all into seeing the other side of them, maybe not under such a pressure condition. And if not everybody wants to be here, I don't think we should be required to be here if they don't want to, if they feel comfortable.
Sure.
You know, I just think the more transparency, the more that's out there, the more that's talked about. I think that this is a large decision for our city, and I think it's something that we want to hire the right person to be there for years to come. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Grace, are you okay?
Yeah, kudos. I think that's good. I don't think that this commission needs to sit in on that department head.
we
and-
don't. No,
and,
not that.
okay, in the community meeting.
No.
I don't see us doing that. But I think it will be beneficial for me, since I didn't have the opportunity before, to do the 30-minute session
Good.
with the candidate.
Vice Mayor?
I'm with both of them.
On the one-on-ones, at a time of our choosing, but to schedule that with you?
What we'll do is, it'll be around that same timeframe. It won't, the 24th.
Okay.
We'll have kind of a slot, either the morning of the 23rd or afternoon of the 23rd, whatever
Okay.
works. And it'll just be, these rooms are available, and here's your slots if you want to take advantage of
Okay, got it.
those.
Fair enough.
And we'll just sit you in a room and then bring candidates in every 30 minutes. You sit down and you have a conversation with them, and that's it.
Okay. Are we good? I know some of the,
I'm ready to go.
I know, and Commissioner Grace is like about falling asleep over there. I want to
Yeah.
get her out of this chair.
Thank you.
So we are good?
Thank you, Mayor.
Vice
Can I,
Mayor, you
can
have-
I just mention one more thing that's not related to the job search that was in the media yesterday? Maybe additionally, we should think about stepping up our security based on what happened in Maryland yesterday.
Oh, yes.
So food for thought in
And
our budget.
I was not on the right page on that last meeting because I didn't think we needed it, but that can
And
refresh your
it's-
mind, definitely.
When I saw an interview this morning on the Today Show with a young intern who had just gotten his first job ever in his life,
Oh, my
and he
God.
was witness to this, I think it bears some additional.
Things like
Talks.
this will make you change your mind, definitely.
Mayor, I got one more thing. If I have,
Yes.
just,
following up with what you said about people talking and so on, I just want to give you my word that whatever you, that it was me that you declined at the very beginning of this conversation about the other city manager happening, I had nothing to do with it. I never did. So
Okay, well, we're going to hear those things about each other, and that's what I'm saying.
I just want to make it clear to everybody that I'm not interfering with that. I'd rather this process be smooth and everybody be on the same page. So my point is that whoever you heard from, that's a bad source.
Okay. All right, are we good? We'll be hearing from.
Renee.
Thank you.
So for any further communications, Renee, please send it through Tom to so there will be no misunderstanding, and send it through Tom. Tom can send it through us. All right?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
you guys have a good vacation.